This is Dateline Monday, November 9th, 1998. Tonight, she was near death. So was he.
I knew I was going to die.
Then, this teenager's death meant they could live.
One of the neurosurgeons asked us to consider organ donation.
But she didn't just give them the gift of life. She gave them the gift of love as well.
Do you think you two would be together if you didn't have the bond of Megan?
Hoda Kotb with a match made in heaven. They look like your regular suburban family.
You're a housewife?
Mm-hmm.
You're a soccer mom?
Yep.
They sound like your regular suburban family.
We are conservative compared to a lot of folks.
But when they go to work, that's when regular becomes risque.
Well, let's just see. Little pouty lip.
And they say they're making serious money selling sex over the internet.
So we had to figure out...
Rob Stafford finds out what the neighbors are saying. A Dateline health line, medical news you need to know.
I had no idea how painful it was going to be.
It's one of the most common operations for women and one of the most painful. But do many women who have hysterectomies really need them?
There are very potent reasons to consider whether the procedure needs to be done at all.
Why aren't women being told about their choices?
Women are going like little lambs to the slaughter with a hysterectomy.
Dr. Bob Arnott on what your doctor may not be telling you. Before you head for the mall this holiday season, there's something you should know.
It's very easy to get caught up in eating these big meals at the mall of food that has a lot of hidden calories.
Even in food that looks healthy, like this.
What you're getting, it has as many calories as this hamburger.
Food for thought. Len Cannon with a Dateline Good Housekeeping exclusive. Plus, find out who is in tonight's Dateline Spotlight. Dateline with Jane Pauley and Stone Phillips, plus Tom Brokaw, Katie Couric, and Maria Shriver. From Studio 3B in Rockefeller Center, here is Stone Phillips.
Good evening. We begin tonight with a Dateline health line about a woman's right to choose. We're not talking about abortion. We're talking about choosing whether or not to have a hysterectomy. The surgery has been performed on some 20 million American women. But tonight you'll hear from some doctors who say most patients who have hysterectomies don't need them. And though it's one of the most personal choices a woman can make, many women say it's not really a choice at all because they're not being told about the alternatives. Here's Chief Medical Correspondent Dr. Bob Arnott.
Alrighty, let's start.
Women are going like little lambs to the slaughter with a hysterectomy when we really should be knocking down doors and saying, how come we can't have these other procedures?
At 52, Linda Ballou was facing a decision more than 500,000 women face each year, whether or not to undergo a hysterectomy.
Can I have a second knife back, please?
Major surgery to remove the uterus and sometimes the ovaries.
I wanted something that wasn't such a radical operation.
Hysterectomy is the second most common major operation for women, usually performed for excessive bleeding or pain. And even though the numbers have decreased slightly in recent years, you might be surprised to learn that some doctors say hysterectomies are still far too commonplace. Only about 10% of hysterectomies are absolutely necessary, those done for cancer. Some doctors say that in up to 90% of the other cases, women could and should be offered one of the alternatives.
Linda Ballou's problem was fibroids, growths which are almost never cancerous, but can cause excessive bleeding and pain. Her doctor recommended a hysterectomy.
When anyone tells you you have a mass in your stomach, it's one of those things you want to check out.
But Linda didn't want to lose her reproductive organs. At 52, she was in the happiest romantic relationship of her life, and she was worried that she'd lose her sexual desire if they were removed. She'd read that some women lose their libido because of a decrease in hormones, and that some women have self-image problems.
So does it bother you at all that doctors tell you that you basically don't need a uterus or ovaries at your age?
Well, you don't like to be reminded of your age in any case. But I'm wondering what would happen if they told a man he didn't need his reproductive organs at any age.
Different response?
I think so.
Although she wasn't happy about it, Linda didn't know what else to do, so she scheduled a hysterectomy. Until she came across this article in a local paper with information about alternatives to hysterectomies. It contained information none of her doctors had told her about. She immediately called the doctor mentioned in the article, Dr. Joe Gambone.
Better outcome. There are very potent reasons to consider whether the procedure needs to be done at all, and if something needs to be done, if there are safer alternatives.
Dr. Gambone is director of the fertility program at the UCLA School of Medicine and treats as many as 3,000 women a year with various obstetric and gynecologic problems.
Frequently we'll hear patients telling us that they were told, you don't want to have any more children, you're 40 or 45 years of age, why don't we get it over with at this time?
In a hysterectomy, a woman's entire uterus is removed, and sometimes her ovaries and fallopian tubes are taken out as well. Gambone told Linda about new surgical alternatives that can remove just the fibroids or uterine lining, leaving the uterus intact. One alternative approved by the FDA is called the opera procedure. It can remove just fibroids or the uterine lining and is done under local anesthesia in about an hour. Most women return home the same day. A newer procedure strictly for the treatment of fibroids is called embolization. In this technique, tiny particles are injected into the blood vessels that supply fibroids with blood. The particles cut off the blood flow, causing the fibroids to shrink. Embolization is still being tested and is considered by many to be experimental. After talking to Dr. Gambone about alternatives, Linda decided that the embolization technique was the one she wanted to try. But she was in for some disappointing news. Because embolization is still considered by some to be controversial, some insurers, including Linda's, don't cover it.
Even though these new procedures are less invasive and the recovery time usually much easier and faster, the downside is they're not always as effective as a hysterectomy. Bleeding may continue, or fibroids may grow back, and if the alternative fails, a woman may end up having a hysterectomy after all.
But Linda had been willing to consider these odds.
I think there were alternatives that were denied me.
Linda couldn't afford the $8,000 to $10,000 it would have cost for the alternative treatment, so reluctantly underwent a hysterectomy. When we interviewed her 4 weeks after the operation, she was still suffering.
It was very painful. Very painful. I had no idea how painful it was going to be. If I could have afforded it, I would have taken one of the other procedures.
For sure.
For sure. I would not have had this hysterectomy.
Leslie Major found herself in much the same predicament. Like Linda, she was determined to avoid a hysterectomy. But at 34, with 3 young children, she had painful menstrual periods that lasted 2 weeks every month and practically shut her down.
How could you function?
I couldn't. I absolutely couldn't. I couldn't really leave my house for any great length of time. It sort of held me back in being able to exercise as far as taking care of my kids. 2 weeks a month, I was pretty much out of commission. I had really no other alternative except for hysterectomy at that point.
And because her husband travels a great deal, and she is the main person taking care of her kids, she felt she really couldn't afford the usual 4 to 6 weeks of recuperation after a hysterectomy.
Because there was no other option really for me.
So when she and her gynecologist heard about a new procedure being performed by Dr. Brian Walsh of Boston's Brigham and Women's Hospital, he sent her right over.
I think the most important thing is to raise the consciousness of women, that to tell them that, yes, there are alternatives to treatment.
Dr. Walsh offered Leslie a new surgical alternative called the balloon technique. It involves the removal of troublesome tissue by using heat to remove the uterine lining and prevent bleeding. The treatment is now FDA approved, but at the time Leslie considered the option, it was still deemed experimental.
Did you worry with this new procedure that you were being used as a guinea pig?
I knew I was. I signed up for it as soon as it was introduced to me. I said, I'm the one. I want it. Knowing what I know now, I know I made the right decision.
After the surgery, Leslie's periods dwindled to almost nothing, and the pain disappeared. The alternative procedure was also covered by her insurance.
Her procedure took probably not more than 30 minutes to do, and she was pretty well recovered by the end of that day. Compare that to a hysterectomy that typically would take at least 1.5 hours with at least a 2 to 3 day hospitalization and time off from work.
I was out doing yard work the next day.
So how do you get the right treatment for you if you're faced with this situation? First, you need to be informed. Talk to your doctor. Ask questions. Read. Talk to friends who've been through it or know someone who has. And if you're not getting the response you're looking for, get a second opinion from a doctor or hospital who offers these procedures and does them frequently. You know, yours is an unusual experience. Many women have a very hard time finding alternatives to hysterectomy, getting their doctor to look elsewhere, finding other doctors, getting the second opinions. Given your terrific experience, what kind of advice would you have for other women?
To stick with it because it's worth it. It's absolutely worth it. To just do as much research as they possibly can.
Fibroids, which is what Linda Ballou had, are more common than blue eyes. As many as 1/4 of all women under the age of 50 have them. And even though fibroid tumors are benign, they're still the leading reason American women have hysterectomies. If you'd like to find out more about alternatives to having a hysterectomy, you can get the information on our website at www.dateline.msnbc.com.
This is Dateline Monday for November 9th, with reports tonight from Rob Stafford, Len Cannon, Hoda Kotb, and Chief Medical Correspondent Dr. Bob Arnott. Still ahead, they were just another everyday family until they discovered cyberspace.
You're a housewife?
Mm-hmm.
You're a soccer mom?
Yep.
And you're a porn star on the internet?
Yes.
Is the sex industry hitting the suburbs? From our studios in New York, here is Jane Pauley.
How would you like to have a high-paying job, set your own hours, no boss to answer to, and you can work at home? Nice fantasy, isn't it? Well, a couple in Maryland say they're doing just that by living out other people's fantasies. They're making a living doing what most couples do only behind closed doors. But this couple is displaying it in front of the whole World Wide Web. Here's Rob Stafford.
Have a good day, guys.
Anytown, USA. In fact, it's Ocean Pines, Maryland, a seaside community that looks as homey and wholesome as Andy's Mayberry. And this couple looks like Mr. and Mrs. Middle America, Ozzie and Harriet of the 90s.
There's the duckies.
Meet David and Cherie Mesner. And that's their son, Cody. He's 8. Everything seems fine here in the suburbs, but everything is not what it seems. You're a housewife?
Mm-hmm.
You're a soccer mom?
Yep.
And you're a porn star on the internet?
Yes.
You heard right. But wait a minute. Let's start back at the beginning. As he tells it, David was in the funeral business making big bucks when suddenly...
I lost my job, and it was off-season. What could I say? Down at the beach, there's just not a lot of $100,000 a year jobs available.
But his family loved their life here and did not want to move. So he had to figure out some way to make money at the beach so he could spend time with Cody rather than commute and be just a weekend dad.
I mean, we had just refinanced our home. We were running thin on finances at that time.
And David says they almost lost their home, but he was determined to succeed.
I, as a man, had to do what I had to do to guarantee my family's security.
But what he had to do started as just a vague concept. David decided he could make money on the internet. Did you know a lot about the internet before you started?
I didn't know a modem from a mouse.
In fact, David says he got his very first computer less than a year and a half ago and went on the internet 4 months later. That first day, he told Cherie,
You know, I know I can make $1 million on the internet, but I don't know how.
But 2 weeks later, after 20-hour days, he figured it out.
I looked over at her and I said, well, I know one thing, and I know it very quickly, that sex sells and not much else on the web.
So he came up with this idea. He calls it the wetlands.
I'm going to show you a site. It's our site.
Where life is good and wives get naked.
It's a mythical community on the northeastern seaboard of the United States where everybody's young and swings.
And for $15 a month, you get unlimited visits to a website with approximately 10,000 explicit pictures of women and men. He says because credit cards are needed for the hardcore material, kids should not be able to get to it. And it's all a variation on one theme.
Housewives, was that the key?
I thought, what would titillate me? What would I be prompted to go and look for? And I thought of every woman that I really fantasized about was actually a real woman. And ultimately, they were all married to someone other than me. Not that I don't fantasize about my own wife.
But in the early days, the only naked wife he could find was his own. And she was a far cry from an exhibitionist.
How would you describe yourself?
Very shy. I used to have very long hair that I used to hide behind. Used to wear very long skirts, blousey type clothing to hide me. Walk with my head down. Very shy.
You were shy?
Extremely.
Shy?
Yes, very.
I've seen your website. And
well, not anymore.
You don't look very shy to me.
Not anymore, no.
So how did shy little Bo Peep turn into Sea Baby, her name in the wetlands? How did this transformation take place?
Did you just walk through the door one day and say, honey, I got a great idea. Take off your clothes, I'll take some pictures, we'll make $1 million?
No, I didn't just say, hon, let's get naked for the camera.
How did you approach me? It was... You were very gentle in how you did it.
So I started taking headshots of my wife and pasting her head on other women's bodies. And I got pretty good at it. But after time, people started getting wise. They were like, why are your wife's breasts bigger this week than they were last week, yet smaller than the week before?
I was of the myth that they wanted the blonde hair, the beautiful girl, the model type girl. And I said, that is not me. And he's like, but you're wrong. I was real nervous. I was real scared. He said, let me do the picture. Let me show it to you on the screen. If you don't like it, I promise we won't post it.
So David convinced her to give it a try.
It was real hard for me to look at it because it's like, oh my, that's me. But he let it there for a while. I could look at it. I could get adjusted to the idea of it.
And I posted it to see what kind of response we get in our email. Well, she got about 400 or 500 responses, and they were all complimentary. And they wanted to see more, 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 more.
When David takes out the camera, do you change?
Yes. It's a job. It's a model being in front of the camera. It's a completely different personality than the person sitting in front of you right now.
Suddenly, soccer mom turns into porn star.
Yeah.
Which wife do you prefer?
I don't have a preference. I got them both, so, you know, I don't have to choose. Well, let's just see. Little pouty lip.
And actually, it isn't only shy Cherie who poses, David poses too. And it's not just still shots. There's moving video, doing what husbands and wives do. And we're not talking about arguing. And lately, subscribers have been sending in pictures of their own wives.
Face it, we all have a wild side. And
yeah.
This is
maybe not that wild.
People connect with their wild side.
David and Cherie act out their customers' wildest fantasies and fetishes, from bondage.
She would be on her knees with the chains wrapped around the wrist.
To domination. To hardcore pornography. But even the Mesners say some things are off limits.
No children, no other people.
But everything else.
No animals.
And they say they only do what is legal. But some of their neighbors say, legal or not, it's wrong.
Ocean Pines is getting a reputation, and I think our reputation is going to become tarnished.
Dr. James Roberts is on the board of directors of the Association of Ocean Pines and has spoken out against the Wetlands website.
I just don't think normal people really act this way normally. I think it's belittling. I think it's beneath human dignity.
Everybody's hooting and hollering about the Messner's dirty little website. So what? It's fun. It's a diversion from the real decay and disgust that's out there. What we do, it's sexy, fun, that's it.
And a lot of money.
And it's a lot of money, yeah. And, that, you know, that's okay, isn't it?
How much money are you making?
We will probably make over $1 million this year.
Over $1 million?
Yeah.
In 1 year?
Yeah.
Can you believe it?
Yeah.
In fact, David says since he started the wetlands, almost 12 million people have sampled it. But one person who hasn't, they say, is their son, Cody.
People are going to look at this and they're going to say, look, you're adults, you want to pose nude, have sex, take pictures, put it on the internet, fine. But you also have a child living in the house.
Right.
And that is not appropriate to have this kind of business run out of a house where there's a child.
Do you see anything that in any way lends itself in the most remote sense to anything sexual?
I saw a lot of penthouses lying around.
No, you saw a lot of penthouses back in the office, which is completely separated. That is a complete no-kids zone.
We were curious about what Cody felt about all this. His parents said ask him, so we did.
Do you know what Mom and Dad do for work?
Yeah.
What?
I forgot.
What does he think you do for a living?
He knows I design websites. He knows there are some naughty pictures that show Mommy where she's not wearing much. And we've told him as the best we could in 8-year-old terms.
If kids start making fun of them and they're bound to do that, what are you going to say to them?
We'll take whatever measures we have to take. If it requires us shutting down our site, we'll do it in a heartbeat.
But if they do shut it down, there are thousands more trying to take their place. And whatever wild fantasies the Mesners have put on the web, in real life they claim they have a pretty conservative lifestyle.
This town looks like Mayberry. And to me, this is the last place I would expect to find a pornographic
And
business.
I'll bet you think I'm the only pornographic website operator in Mayberry here. And you'd be wrong. There are others. There are others. And we are conservative compared to a lot of folks. We're monogamous. We are totally monogamous. But yet we know for a fact there are groups in this very community that have swap parties. We've been invited. We've been invited. And we've turned them down.
Even in Mayberry, people are swapping wives.
Right. We play our fantasy out on the web. There are people playing their fantasies out in real life right here in Mayberry.
Aunt B would be stunned.
Yeah, Aunt B be stroking out on that one.
The Mesners say their website's making so much money now, they're planning to hire other people to run it for them. And they're not the only ones in the area using sex on the web to make money. A florist in the next town also runs an X-rated website on the side.
Still ahead, what you may not know about the food you're eating in the mall.
We figured it out that most entrees in a Chinese restaurant in the mall have about, 60 to up to 80% of the calories from fat.
What's really in that mall food? A Dateline Good Housekeeping exclusive. Also, his parents knew what his career would be the moment he was born. The oldest of 4 children, he was easygoing and undemanding. Fate dealt him a life that would test his nature and the values his family holds dear. Who is he? Find out in tonight's Dateline Spotlight.
Vivian?
Coming to James in 6,
Ready, camera 3.
5, 4, 3, 2,
Stand by camera 2.
1.
And dissolve. Mike and cue.
Now the Dateline timeline. All the following events happened during the second week of November. Do you know what year it was? The stock market closed above 1,000 for the first time. The Exorcist was a bestseller.
Consider yourselves fortunate that you have John Adams to abuse, for no sane man would tolerate it.
John, you're a bore. We've heard this before.
1776 was the top movie musical.
Yanko, what happened? I just killed a man, Cam.
On TV, Searched was a new adventure series.
I can see clearly now the rain is gone.
And a Johnny Nash single was Pure Gold.
I can see all obstacles in my way.
All right, was it? 1972, 1973, or 1974? The answer when Dateline continues.
Bright, sunshiny day, had me blind. It's gonna be...
So what year was it? 76 was lively, so was the market. And I Can See Clearly Now sold 1 million. It all happened the second week of November, 1972.
Sunshiny day.
Dateline, honored by American women in radio and television with 3 Gracie Awards, more than any other news magazine, continues.
With the holiday season fast approaching, you might just be heading to the mall a lot. If so, there's something you should know. It concerns that little break in the action you might be looking forward to when you rest your weary bones, drop your bags, and grab a bite to eat. Because it turns out there may be more to that mall food than you ever imagined. Here's Len Cannon with a Dateline Good Housekeeping exclusive.
You may be one of the millions of shoppers that hit the mall this holiday season. You decide to get something to eat. You want to eat healthy. But can you?
So rice, vegetables, potato, pasta, 5 bananas.
Sometimes there are just as many choices of food as there are stores. Chinese, Italian, Mexican.
If you choose carefully, at almost any place in the mall, you can get a pretty decent meal.
Delia Hammock is the nutrition director at the Good Housekeeping Institute. She surveyed food at 23 malls in 7 states for an upcoming article. She found what you see isn't always what you get. For instance, many people who are watching their weight think Chinese food, full of vegetables, rice, and chicken, is the best bet.
Chinese food is much less grease. I feel very healthy.
Well, think again.
Most entrees in a Chinese restaurant in the mall have about, 60 to up to 80% of the calories from fat. Very high, because a lot of things are stir-fried, and some of them are deep fat fried before they're stir-fried.
Wow. Very shocking.
And what about those vegetable wraps?
Wraps are very big now, and they'll have some sort of lettuce or vegetables in the wrap, and it looks very, very healthy.
So what would you choose? A veggie fajita wrap or a plain burger?
Probably the pita.
Definitely, I know the burger's fattening, so I'd probably go with the fajita.
Wrong.
This one is really, can fool you quickly. Probably has cheese added to it.
There's some sour cream, it looks like, in here.
And so what you're getting, it has as many calories as this hamburger.
It is shocking to me. I wouldn't think that they were the same.
The bottom line, just because something has vegetables doesn't always mean it's the healthier choice, especially when it's loaded with oil, cheese, and sour cream. And many people think low-fat yogurt is better than ice cream. Can't go wrong with that, right? Not necessarily.
A lot of people will say, well, I'm going to get the low-fat or fat-free yogurt and then get the giant size. And that is so much larger than just a regular scoop of ice cream, then they may be getting more calories total than they would have gotten if they got the regular ice cream.
So they're defeating the purpose by eating more of the healthy stuff.
Exactly.
Just because something is low-fat doesn't mean you can eat all you want. Now that you know the potential pitfalls of low-fat foods, here's one last test. Which do you think has fewer calories? This low-fat hot fudge sundae or a plain large pretzel?
Absolutely, pretzel. Pretzel all the way.
Wrong again. No butter, no anything, and you say that it has almost as many calories as this hot fudge sundae.
It's just about the same, because a pretzel is so large.
No.
So if you want to make the healthiest choice when eating at the mall, stay away from deep-fried and stir-fried foods. Watch out for toppings like cheese. And cut out tuna and chicken salad sandwiches. They're loaded with mayonnaise.
A sliced chicken sandwich would be a good choice. And ham is often pretty lean, too.
Eat plain burgers, steamed rice and vegetables, salads with dressing on the side. So it's not impossible to eat healthy at the mall if you're as picky with your food as you are with your shopping.
Steamed chicken and vegetables with white rice. Little soy sauce on top.
If you're still stuck on the thought of a sandwich without mayo, Good Housekeeping's nutrition director has a tip. Use an interesting bread like whole wheat or rye, which will add texture and taste, and healthy toppings like jalapeno or red peppers, onions, or cucumbers. You can find more information about healthy eating at the mall in the December issue of Good Housekeeping on the newsstands tomorrow.
Coming up next, two strangers facing death find love after life-saving transplants from the same donor.
Even after she died, she continued to be the matchmaker.
A match made in heaven. Plus, years ago, he played the title roles in two of Shakespeare's greatest tragedies, Macbeth and Richard III. Since then, he has played center stage in a modern-day tragedy worthy of the great bard. Who is he? Find out in tonight's Dateline Spotlight.
What makes people fall in love? First, they have to find each other, and they have to have something in common, right? And sometimes it happens in the most unusual ways, like the story you're about to hear. It's about two parents facing the darkest night of their lives, and two strangers facing death. That's how it begins. And the thing about love stories is you never quite know how they're going to end. Here's Hoda Kotb.
I wanted a girlfriend, a wife, somebody special in my life.
Chris Nelson planned his future in the place he got his start, here along the Mississippi River. His dreams were simple, nothing lofty or out of the ordinary. But there was also something wrong happening within him, making any kind of dreaming all but impossible.
Nobody wants to die.
He couldn't stop it. Doctors couldn't either. He had no way of knowing that 450 miles downstream there was a stranger, a young Illinois girl, who could. Even more, in a most extraordinary way, she would introduce Chris to the love of his life. 14-year-old Megan Hickerson was a child with a song in her heart, and she didn't have to sing for you to hear it. It was in her eyes, her smile. The straight-A student cheerleader loved to fly, and her father says she was the warmest person he knew.
Just a real shining star. Never met a stranger. She wouldn't have had to talk to him more than a minute or two, and they would have been friends.
But everything changed in January 1995. Megan was excited about an upcoming church-sponsored ski trip. It seemed as safe as any ski trip could be, with clear, crisp weather and plenty of adult supervision.
Had she skied before?
Once. She had gone to Iowa the year before with our church. This was an annual trip.
The Hickersons remember how quiet it seemed that night without Megan. Then suddenly, their phone rang.
And when the phone rang at 10:15 that night, I looked at him and I said, "This isn't good news."
It was the worst news. The family minister said Megan had been in a terrible skiing accident. The Hickersons would later learn that Megan lost control here on the beginner slope, slid off the trail, and hit her head on this exposed metal water pipe. On that night, there were no flights out. The Hickersons, frantic, got into the car.
You drove all night long?
Well, 357 miles.
Must have been terrifying.
It was, you couldn't get there fast enough.
This medical chopper had whisked Megan to University of Wisconsin Hospital's intensive care unit. But when the Hickersons finally got to the hospital, they learned their only daughter, always so vibrant and alive, could no longer breathe on her own. Her heart couldn't beat on its own. Her brain had forgotten how. A massive brain injury. Doctors said she wouldn't make it.
I told the doctor, I'll take her any way that you can give them to me. I'll take her home, I'll quit my job, I'll stay home, and I'll take care of her.
There were other patients in the hospital that day also in desperate straits. Just downstairs, Chris Nelson, the man who grew up along the Mississippi, was in a deadly coma. As a child, he accidentally drank poison, and by 26, the chemicals destroyed his liver. The only possible cure was a new one. But across the country, some 10 people die every day waiting for organs that never come. And now, in Chris's case, it seemed too late. A priest had already given him his last rites.
I knew I was going to die. I had accepted the fact.
On the floor above Megan's room, Hodgkin's disease was attacking another 26-year-old. Kristen Gabrielson, once a sergeant in an Illinois Sheriff's Department.
When I first heard Hodgkin's disease and I heard the word cancer, I just thought that I might as well just end it now because I didn't want to go through all the pain and suffering.
But cancer wasn't killing Kristen. The radiation was. She was down to 95 pounds. New lungs, donated lungs, were the only answer.
What did you think when you knew that in order for me to live, someone else would have to die?
It was really hard to deal with that, but then after a while, and it may sound cold, but you have to think of it as someone is going to die anyway.
Meanwhile, the Hickersons were about to learn that that someone was Megan.
I asked a neurosurgeon, I said, what are we looking at here? And he said, it'll be over in 24 hours. And Connie says, you mean she'll be okay in 24 hours? And he looked at me and he said, no, it'll be over in 24 hours.
Tragically, 14-year-old Megan was a hopeless case. There could be no recovery. And now, with the lives of other patients in the balance, doctors knew they could wait no longer. It was time to ask Megan's parents to step outside of their grief and turn their loss into a gift.
When they ran the last test and came in and told us that she was brain dead, one of the neurosurgeons asked us to consider organ donation.
All I could think of was maybe that there was another mother sitting in another hospital room hoping, you know, that her child, for a miracle for her child.
The Hickersons said yes, but before they and ultimately Megan could make that bold act of generosity, Megan's mom had one final request.
I said, I really want to get in bed with her. I want to hug her. And they moved her over so I could get in bed with her. And they showed me how I could hold her. Jim came in, and we just kind of spent our last moments together. Told her goodbye. And we'd love her forever.
With word that Megan's organs were available, doctors started scrambling, racing a total of 5 needy transplant candidates into surgery, including Chris and Kristen.
Oh, I was excited. I was ready to get it going. Yeah.
You thought, I'm going to live.
Yeah. Yeah, I did.
Chris and Kristen's surgeries were 2 of some 450 transplant surgeries performed at the University of Wisconsin Hospital each year. 70 to 80% of these surgeries are ultimately deemed successful, with patients going on to lead healthy, normal lives. Chris remembers his amazement after awakening from his week-long coma.
I saw the stitches, and I knew that I had gotten a transplant, that I was alive. And then
I remember when I woke up, as I had real long hair at that time, my first thought was, I have got to get my hair cut because this is awful.
Your haircut?
Yeah, my sisters knew, well, she's definitely going to make it if her first thought is she's got to get her hair cut.
You still didn't know who had given you those organs at that point?
I didn't even know if it was a young girl.
I knew that the girl who died was 14 years old. I knew that there were some parents out there that really missed their daughter. And I had a really hard time with it. Megan always had confidence and grace beyond her years.
Chris would gain a deeper appreciation for the girl who saved his life when he received this letter from Megan's parents.
What we're seeing here is your old little biopsy stuff.
It came by way of University of Wisconsin Hospital. What's unusual about their transplant program is that it encourages the families of organ donors to reach out to the recipients as part of the healing process.
We do not wish to interfere with their lives in any way. Perhaps you can let them know how much we loved our precious princess, what kind of person she was, and let all of them know we are praying for their recovery and continued strength.
I sat there and bawled when I read that letter.
Now more than anything, Chris wanted to express his gratitude to the Hickersons. That day would come 2 months after his life-saving surgery on the Phil Donahue Show. That's Chris, clean-shaven. It wasn't an intimate setting. The whole country was watching.
Other than I'm grateful that they made...
One woman in particular, Kristen, who showed us a tape of the broadcast. At the time, she had tuned in to see the Hickersons, but she couldn't take her eyes off Chris.
all I could think of is that he looked so nervous, just very scared, and being up there in front of everybody and thousands of eyes looking at him.
It wasn't until a year later at an organ donation fundraiser held at a bowling alley that Chris and Kristen really got a chance to talk.
I was real giddy and butterflies in my stomach and all that silly stuff that happens when you're 13, you know, and with a crush on somebody, and so it was, and here we were 26 years old. And then when he left, he knew that I didn't want him to leave. He could tell that.
I sensed it.
How did you sense that?
Kristen was looking at me as I was walking out the door, and I looked back. She was like, kind of looking.
Connie Hickerson, who was also there that night, recognized the signs that the two had much more in common than just receiving the gift of life from Megan.
They were just like two scared kids. All I said was, look, you know, this is the 90s. Tell him that you had a nice time, that it was good to see him.
So who initiated the relationship? Who was in the driver's seat?
I think it was me.
Was it?
I think it was me.
There was a flurry of supportive phone calls with a special understanding of what each other was going through. Their feelings deepened.
How did you know it was love?
I couldn't live without her.
In September 1996, 5 months after that first spark, Kristen left Wisconsin for Illinois to move in with Chris, who now works in a print shop. Kristen took a job as a medical secretary.
Not everybody gets a second chance to do it again. And like mowing the lawn and doing laundry and making dinner and things that are everyday things that others may think is just a chore. I love every minute of it because I have that opportunity to do it again.
This past January, on the 3rd anniversary of their transplants, the young man who once thought that romance and marriage were forever beyond his grasp gave Kristen a ring, telling her she was the one that he wanted to marry.
Do you think you two would be together if you had received organs from different people? If you didn't have the bond of Megan?
No.
I think that was part of Megan's plan. She was a matchmaker.
When you do think about that couple in love, somehow because of Megan, what do you think?
I think she's looking down and she's just having a good old time watching them.
The Hickersons recently adopted a little girl from China, Lori Marie, who turned 1 just last month. If their story got you thinking about making arrangements for organ donation, it's now easier than ever to become an organ donor. All 50 states allow you to indicate your wishes right on your driver's license. If you'd like more information about it, you can visit our website at www.dateline.msnbc.com.
Coming up, he's a pilot, a musician, and a multimillionaire with some fabulous real estate. His relatives were no strangers to scandal, and his relationship with his own wife set off a scandal that would tantalize the world for years. Who is he? Find out in tonight's Dateline Spotlight. Coming up on Dateline Tuesday, they're among the hottest cars on the road today. But how safe are they? You'll see insurance industry crash tests on the very popular small sport utility vehicles.
We're trying to assess the capability of vehicles to prevent serious injuries and deaths.
How safe is your car? How safe are you? A Dateline Consumer Alert. Dateline will continue after this message from your local station. And now, tonight's Dateline Spotlight. A half-century ago, his birth was celebrated by millions. London's fountains ran blue for the new baby boy. This week, Britain's glitterati celebrated again as he turned 50 years old. So we've put Charles Philip Arthur George Windsor, Prince Charles, in tonight's Dateline Spotlight.
From our studios in New York, here again is Jane Pauley.
And now here's Katie Couric with a look at what's coming up tomorrow on Today. Katie.
Thanks, Jane. We'll hear from a woman who's under arrest for lying about sex in a civil case.
Also, an inspiring story of a young man who dreamed of playing college basketball, but he lost a leg when he was 13 years old. Still, he's making that dream come true. So those stories and more tomorrow on Today. Stone?
Thanks, Katie. And that's Dateline for this Monday. We'll see you again for Dateline Tuesday at 10, 9 Central. Now stay tuned for your local news. I'm Stone Phillips, and for all of us at NBC News, good night.
Very nice work, everybody. See you back here tomorrow night.
Later on The Tonight Show, turn down the volume. Fran Drescher's on the way. Plus, Brandy. Still know what she did last summer. And British mogul Richard Branson. Your local news is next.
The financially strapped Iroquois School District tonight trying to find a way out of their money problems. Rob Macklin takes a look at the options. Also, GPU selling billions of dollars worth of land and power plants, including a big chunk of undeveloped waterfront property. Next.